All right, man. Well, the spring run is right around the corner here in Rhode Island. Blackfish season opens up April 1st, and that's about the time the schoolies are going to start trickling in. So it's a pretty warm day today. I figured I'd take the time, the kayak all cleaned up, make sure everything's working, just give like a really quick tutorial of how I set it up for ocean fishing and bridge fishing and stuff like that. If you've seen my videos, you kind of know how I use my kayak. So I like to be efficient as possible whenever I launch. I'd say within 15 minutes maximum when I pull up at a spot, I'll be launching out fully rigged. It kind of looks like a jumbled mess with all the gear around, but I'll show you. It's really quick to set up and it's really easy to be comfortable and safe out there in the ocean. All right, well, first off, this is the Hobie Pro Angler 14. This is probably the biggest and heaviest kayak that Hobie makes. It's specifically designed for fishing. I mean, it's in the name, Pro Angler. You're not gonna buy this if you just wanna go for little leisure cruises around the pond. It's a heavy kayak, man. I think it's like 100, maybe 110 pounds without even being fully rigged. But because of that, it is very stable, it is very safe. I've never felt sketchy out there in the ocean in this. I can stand up and cast on it. It's a great kayak. I highly recommend it if you have the means to transport it and if you're going to be using it a lot, because this is expensive. It's not cheap. But because this kayak is so heavy, you got to get one of these wheel carts to move it around. It is impossible to transport these things without these wheels. I used to have the boondocks that go on the side, and I don't know if you've seen them, they like clip in on the side. I do not recommend that because if you can see here, it actually ripped out of my hole last season. I had to patch it up. So just avoid the boondocks because they usually lead to trouble. All right, so the first thing I like to do is set up my fish finder before I launch. If you've never set up a fish finder before, especially on a kayak, I guess it can be a little intimidating just because like you don't know what the heck to do. And I totally get it. It took me a couple like tutorial videos to figure out the best way to do this, but it's a lot easier than you think. There's really only 4 main components to a fish finder. First one is a transducer. Second is the power cable. Third is the monitor itself, and fourth is the battery. I am waiting on my replacement battery, but that literally takes 2 seconds to hook up, so it's not that big of a deal. So pretty much the first step is get the transducer in the hull of the kayak, and this literally takes 2 seconds. I know different types of Hobies are built differently, but there should be a hatch pretty much right in front of where you sit on most models. So really all you do is get all the cable in here, slide it down to the front, and that is where my transducer is going to sit. Boom. And for this Garmin model I have, you do not need to submerge this transducer in water. I've seen videos of people like they put in a Tupperware container and fill it with water and then put the transducer in there and like put a cap on it. You don't need to do that with this model. I found that all you need to do is use this duct seal and kind of just like put it around the base of the transducer so it doesn't move, and the plastic is thin enough, we'll shoot a signal out and come back up with no problem. I'm not going to officially secure it yet because it's still March and you never know, it, like temperatures could be dropping down to the 20s again, so I don't want to mess with the transducer in really cold temps. But when I'm in the swing of things, I'll just permanently secure it for the season so I don't need to do this every time I launch. All right, now that your transducer's in place, close up the hatch, throw your monitor on your stand, like so, angle it in the position you want, and here in the front is where the battery would be. So basically get my transducer wire, and cable management's a big part too. So like when I officially secure this for the season, I'll kind of tape up this wire so there's just not a bunch of wire hanging out in my kayak. But this is all waterproof right here, so I mean if this wire gets wet, you're not gonna have any issues. So run the transducer wire in the XCDR slot, and then this is where I would hook up my battery if I have it. All I do is boom, hook up my battery here and hook it up to the power slot, and that's it. Once you're connected to power, like if I was connected to power right now and I turn this on, it would start running. Again, cable management, I'll secure it so there's not a bunch of cables around. Close your lid, secure it. There's another one on the other side. We'll make like an X, and boom, fish finder set up. That's all it takes. And like I said, when the transducer is permanently in the hull, all you need to do is put the battery in, connect it to the battery, and connect the 2 wires, and boom, you're good to go. It takes literally 1 minute to get up and running. All right, and from here, man, it's pretty straightforward. You just load up all your stuff. I'll quickly show you what kind of like the bare minimum you need to be comfortable out there. So obviously first goes in your chair. Takes 2 seconds, boom, ready to go. Next, I like to get my pedal drive in here. And a really important tool you cannot leave behind is normal kayak paddles. This is because the pedal drive is like the biggest single point of failure on a Hobie kayak. I had it break last season on me. Thankfully I wasn't too far out, but even where I was, if I didn't have these paddles, I would have been screwed, man. So just for a safety precaution, bring paddles out, and it helps tremendously with launching. You can use paddles in shallow water, so you don't need to use your pedal drive when it's shallow. So obviously, just throw these in here. I like to keep them along the side. Kind of slide them in there a little bit, but you can kind of put them wherever they fit. I could also cross them on the back here. And I'm pretty sure now they make webs on the side that you can put your paddles so they're out of the way, but this is a really old model. This is a 2013, man, so this thing's 7 years old. A little dated, but does the job. Another piece of safety equipment you obviously need is a life jacket. Pretty sure you can get in trouble with the Coast Guard if you get caught without one. Marine radio is also pretty important. I have one on the way in. Some people bring out flares. I don't think that's a requirement, and I would really only do that if I was going out like miles and miles out to sea. But I guess, you know, the more prepared you are, the safer you'll be. Next, I think it's important to have like some kind of storage unit for your rods and just to put stuff to. This is actually a live well that came with my kayak when I bought it used. I'm not crazy about running this because it requires like a second battery to run, so it's just like more wires and more moving parts. So I've just been kind of lazy and haven't been using the live well what it's intended for. It's mostly been for storage, but hey, maybe this season I'll get it up and running. I've seen guys use milk crates too and just put these rod holders on. You know, really anything works, whatever works best for you. So I have 4 extra storage for rods and nets and flags and stuff like that. Another piece of safety is one of these Yak Attack Flags. Just helps boats see where you are, and at nighttime this has a 360-degree white light that's pretty damn bright, so boats should be able to see you. I'm not sure, to be honest, if this is an actual requirement to bring out. I don't think you can get in trouble if you don't have a flag, but pretty much everyone uses a flag. It's kind of dumb if you don't, and I think it's like 80 bucks to get one of these Yak Attacks. It's pretty much what everyone uses. So I like to throw this in one of the rod holders, depending on what style of fishing I'm doing. You know, specifically if I know I'm going for fluke, I'll bring a net. Can honestly get away with the smaller net. This one's a little obnoxious, but does the job. Next part, obviously one of the most important parts, are your rod and reels. This is a setup I am really excited for this season. Okuma sent me this. This is the SRT Inshore Elite. It's a 7-foot medium heavy, and it's like super light, but at the same time, it's like definitely got some backbone to it. So this is gonna be my go-to kind of for just like throwing out lures and blitzes, and also like jigging for blackfish on bridge pilings. It's kind of gonna be my go-to rod. This is a really solid kayak rod, and it's not gonna break the bank either, man. I'm really excited to try this out, and it's in that like kind of a sucker for that sexy light blue color, so definitely looking forward to using this, man. So this is just a preference thing for me. I like to have all my rod holders on the back of the kayak. I actually had 2 Scotty rod holders that were attached to the front, and my issue with that is, like, if you're fighting a big fish in the bow of the kayak, it has a tendency to go left and right, like around the bow. So if you have like a rod like right here just in the way, if you're fighting a fish, like boom, you'll just hit your rod. And if he keeps going this way, it kind of becomes a nightmare and you get all wrapped up and stuff like that. So I don't want anything getting in the way of me when I'm fighting a fish in the bow. So because of that, like I said, I keep everything in the back. I know some of you will recognize this freaking behemoth rod. This is what I was using for kayak fishing last year. Way too heavy, man. This is really the only 7-foot rod I had, and I just went for it. This would kill my arms whenever I was jigging or stuff like that. You do not need a rod this heavy for kayak fishing. This is more like a tuna rod. But I'm waiting on a couple more setups from Okuma, so I'm gonna have a 3-rod setup here, so I'm pretty excited. But for now, just throw this in here just to show you how the storage works. And one last final piece, have one of these red flags you can just attach in the back of your kayak. This is for whenever you're transporting it. I think it's a law that you do need to have some kind of flag at the very end, because this sticks out like 2 feet out of my truck. Really cheap. I think you can get one like that for 10 bucks, and you know, it's a flag. You can beat the crap out of it, lasts forever, so not that big of an investment. And then I like to have some kind of backpack or something. This is just an example. I'm probably not going to be using this bag, but just have this filled with all your fishing stuff you're going to need. You know, lures, knife, scissors, measuring tape, lip grippers, leaders, you know, anything you're going to need tackle wise. Just keep all in one bag, and I usually just tuck it right behind my seat like that, so if I need to grab something, I'll just reach behind and put it on my lap. This looks like I don't have that much space right now, but when I launch, obviously this is going to be on my body, and this pedal drive is going to be connected and barely in the way. I tuck these away even more, so I have this big, I'll move this for an example. I have this big open space for leg room and landing fish and stuff, and it's really comfortable. I really like how roomy these pro anglers are. Yeah, and that's pretty much it, man. The hardest part really is making sure you have everything in your car with you. There's been times where like I forgot a rod or I forgot a pedal drive, and it's just a pain in the neck. So what I like to do is the night before, if I'm going early in the morning, just make sure you got everything, because you know, at 4 in the morning, half asleep, you're probably gonna forget some stuff. Yeah, you look like a little bit of a hardo with with the setup like this, but that's all right. This is really kind of what it takes to be comfortable out there and to be able to fish efficiently. Like I said, this takes no more than 15 minutes to get this all in the kayak, and then all you do, grab it here and wheel it down. I'm doing this with one hand, pretty easy. It's not that heavy with the wheels. Just wheel it down to wherever you want to launch, and yeah, that's pretty much it, man.